We are here today talking to people who typically doesn't matter. We've had some topics lately. Last month was on CRM that really applied to everyone, but we talked about what it would look like if you wanted to scale it into a team and what those options would be. Today we're talking about time management and productivity. It is going to have a slight team focus, but a lot of it is actually just you as a leader and as universal to anyone who just wants to think about or take a moment about their time and being productive and what that looks like. Um, I'm Beth Nordowney. I am in the state of Minnesota. I have a team between the Twin Cities market and then, which is Minneapolis, St. Paul, and surrounding area, and then also in Rochester, Minnesota, which is about an hour and whatever, depends on where you are, hour and a half south. And Miss Siri.
Hi, I'm here in San Diego, even though I know the weather doesn't sound like it's San Diego weather today. Down here in San Diego, I've been in for over 2 decades into this role here and run a team called The Brand in Brand Realty here in San Diego. And we have about 60-ish people here on the team. And yeah, just all things real estate. I just came from a listing that we have. I'm very much in production, kind of that whole, thing about getting out of production. And then I'm very much in production. So like last year I did 55 transactions while running a team, and I have another company as well.
55 in California,
Yeah, we're already
55.
55 for California is good.
Yeah, it is. 30 is like
So
winning. Yeah, 55 is insane, Siri.
yeah. So, I mean, we're already, I think we have about 12 listings going right now. We were just out of listing, getting it all prepped. I left George over there with the leaf blower in his happy place. But um, just speaking on, just time management and productivity, I mean, I'm kind of living all angles running a team, and, you have to really watch your schedule. And so I'm excited for this today because it's just definitely important if you want to be everybody has the same amount of time and in a day, right? Some of us sleep a little less. Some of us sleep a little more, so that can vary a little bit based on your sleep schedule. But how do you make all that work? And then how do you get your agents to understand that language? So, yeah, that's a little bit about me and a little bit about how we're going to flow into all this today.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And do you want me to do slides? I think Brenna, you sent those over. You can be rolling those or
You
whatever
want to
you
do
guys need.
slides? I have it marked like where.
I can if you need me to.
Okay, go ahead. You can.
That'd be great.
Awesome. Well, it's interesting. I want to ask a question, and I know there's always like a few people that are on the Zoom, and then there's always the work Vivo. And the work Vivo, I think so far, I have not really figured out how to interact with people that are watching through the app versus live. However, today, if you want to do the first slide, like we've talked about and said a couple times now, we are going to talk about time management and productivity. I'm going to tell you, I asked Siri, and again, if I could talk on this for the majority of the time today, you can go back to the first slide still or stop it. But why am I qualified to speak on this? And this is something that is like really near and dear to my heart. And I want to start with a story that I was somebody that typically ran like, I don't know, 20 minutes behind, maybe even 25. Me and timeliness was really not a thing at all. I can remember there's some fundamental things there's things that happen in your life, especially if you're driven or you want to be successful, that kind of impact you. Like someone can say something to you and it kind of, you're kind of taken aback and you do some reflecting on like, is this like going to be a problem? One of them was like when I first started in college, I had a professor who, it was a smaller class, stopped me one day and asked me if I thought I was so important that like everyone could wait on me, and that if for some reason like time did not matter, and why I felt like it was okay to have everyone wait for me to get there. And I remember I literally can remember, it's like one of those foundational memories, walking out of college that day and just getting mad at her, right? And thinking like, well, why does it matter? This, just really wrestling with this idea of like timeliness. but it definitely affected me. And it was the first time I think I thought about it outside of myself and thinking about like what it would be like to be on the other side of me versus in my mind, what it really came down to, I was just a poor manager of understanding time. I'm an optimist. I want to do a lot of things. And so if I think I have 15 minutes, I think I can go to the grocery store. I think I could like write like a list of things I need to do this week, probably send out an email, make a phone call. Like, obviously, you can never do that. But in my mind, I think that that might be possible. And I'm going to try to do it, which hence like why you show up late. So I think that that was like the first time I thought about it. I got a job at TGI Fridays and I was like a corporate trainer for TGI Fridays, which was a really big restaurant, super cool, like in the late 90s, early 2000s. And their whole policy when I went out on the road to open new stores and restaurants is that on time was late, or sorry, early was on time was late, and late was unacceptable. Man, that was the hardest thing I ever had to do was to learn to be like early. So I did it though, which was amazing that I had to do it. And I think I started to then really start to see the value of like how if I manage my time, how it impacted working with others and how it impacted my life and how I felt. So I think that like there was just those couple things that I realized that I had to make changes to who I was foundationally in order to like achieve the career and the dreams that I wanted. So I think that I just want to give that story because sometimes when I speak, I currently my director of operations tells me that I have probably become too efficient and too productive with my time and how I manage it to the point where it's difficult because of my expectation of what I think of everyone else and what they can do. And just like the gap is pretty wide right now. But I want to share that story because I think that it's possible, even if you are someone who starts in a place of just running around crazy and just kind of can't seem to figure out how the days are functioning and how you're getting through and what the weeks look like, and it's all a blur because I can relate. So also, I just want to say that I think a lot of us here, it's, you know, it's born out of ambition, right? It's born out of drive. It's born out of all the things that I wanted to accomplish or achieve in life. But through some life lessons, really just kind of like a couple that I shared, learned how to, you know, manage myself so that I could achieve those things, because that's one of the most important things if you want to sell 55 homes or and run a team, right? Or and be a mom and be, you know, a friend and take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have got to learn how to manage a time, right? Even if you think that, like, serious probably realization is more like, yeah, that's right. I got to go back to I have the same hours as everyone else. And I am maximizing every hour that I'm using. But some of us, we're not. So I think it's great to think about that. So it was kind of interesting because when I thought about this talk today, I thought like, well, I went back to some old talks because it's something that's very near and dear to my heart, and was like, what are some of the best tips I could do? And I kind of came back to a foundational lesson. And that's what we're going to talk about today. That I think if you don't have this foundation, like everything else, time blocking, like when I think about everything I've learned as far as like leverage, like I just said, your schedule, the hours, what you put in it, meetings, like how you move things forward. If you don't have this foundation, like the whole rest of it, it just will continue to crumble. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So you can switch the slide. Now, one thing that was interesting to me, and I know, so if you're here, if you could put it in the chat, is I just want to get a sense of how many hours people are working today. Because if I need to know like the audience, sometimes it's like, last time, one of the talks I went back to when I gave this, I was talking to a group that I would say averaged 50 to 60 hours a week. And I think that there's been a lot of change since COVID, where sometimes people are working, I don't know, 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week, sometimes 40 it is. So anybody want to put in just so I can kind of tailor it a little bit to 40, 50, 60, 20. I like that Chris puts 30 plus networking events, which that's work. So probably
Busy.
way to kind of like hide that. Like I only work 30 plus I do networking events and I call clients on Saturdays, but like, yeah, all in like 60. No, I'm just kidding.
Mhm.
So
30 to 35 to 45.
How about you, Siri? What do you think? What are you working right now?
Hours a week?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I'm just going to estimate, but it probably falls somewhere between 60 and 70.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just kind of go off for a second here with that. I
Yeah.
mean, here's the thing. I think we're always working. There are a
Yeah, for
few
sure.
personal appointments that I've put on my calendar every week that are personal for me. I'd say there's probably about, I don't know, 6 hours a week that I spend in just time slotted personal appointments, aka like a massage. I go for a hike with the girls in a couple hours. Those are my time where I just kind of have my own space. However, those people that I'm with are opportunities to me to be able to network and get more business. So is that really time off? I don't know, because I'm always talking about business. It's kind of like anything else besides sleeping, which I get about 6 hours of sleep every night, and I feel good about that. I'm doing work, in some capacity, and that's how it is for me. I had an agent on the team a couple weeks ago asked George and I, he said, "Do you guys ever have days off?" And we looked at him and we said, "No." And the reality is there are no days off in real estate. I know sometimes we can, teach or coach on make sure you have personal time off. However, really do we have time off with that? So I know that's kind of the long answer of 60 to 70 hours, but really I don't really turn it off. There's maybe 6 hours a week where I dedicate to myself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, I think so. I think that often, there's two sides of the coin. Like either I'm working hours, but still they could be more efficient in what I'm doing, or I'm working a lot of hours. And again, it's super important at that point, depending on what you want to achieve, that you are efficient with your time. And if you're doing a team, like what we're putting into the hours and what we're doing with it, like you said, is become like a really big deal. And a lot of times it comes down to what I find is right drive. Like if you're doing the 55 homes, like there was a version, right, when I had that life that, yeah, I didn't have a day off either. I always said it was like a lifestyle. And I think if you're producing, real estate is like a lifestyle because you're always on. Like Adam and I were talking about this yesterday, where if you're at a grocery store, if you are at a wedding, if you're at an event, like you are always on. So that is true.
Everything's an opportunity.
Everything's an
Yeah.
opportunity. Which
Yeah.
leads me to kind of the next point, that I think that the other thing that a lot of people have in common is that most of us are also people pleasers, right? We want people to, we look at it opportunities. We look at this as like, we want them to like us. We want them to know us so that hopefully if they want to buy or sell, they'll work with us in the future. So I'm sure that most people on this are also fall in that camp. That's something that we all have in common. So I think one of the hardest things that I had to learn and believe that is difficult to say in real estate is the word no, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Because it's hard to
Hmm.
say no. I just want to put this in context when we're rewarded for selling more, right? I mean, rewarded financially, rewarded in accolades, rewarded in people thinking, wow, look what this person is doing. It is really difficult when I'm going to talk about from a team member perspective now, and maybe even still yourself. It's hard to say no when you think like, are they just going to find somebody else? If I say no to them about this Saturday or this Sunday morning that they want to go look at something, or this Wednesday night and I have something already scheduled for myself or my family, will they find someone else? If I say no, like, will they give me a bad review? If I say no, am I still going to get paid? Right? Am I like jeopardizing kind of blowing up this deal? If I say no, because we're taught, and I agree with this, that the way to success is to say yes, right? Yes, and like, how can I help you? Yes, and how can we do this? Um, you wonder again if it's you're running a team and you have a team member. If I say no, or I'm not there for them at 8 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night or on the weekends or always, are they going to quit? Will they leave and go find another team? And so we are absolutely rewarded from our peers too, right? Our team members and our peers and what we receive. People in social media comment and like, wow, look at what you're doing. Look at all that you're doing. That's amazing. In conversations, I can't, I was, my point I was going to say is like, I think in even social media, like they'll say like, wow, I really love watching you. It's so great. And I really like following what you're doing. You should post more. You should do. I love Siri's posts, by the way, and George. I love watching them. I could just make comments to Siri about how I like watching her and George and what they're doing with homes, and or someone else, they hear that someone chose them off of a video that they've done, and how does that make you feel? Like I should do more, right? Maybe or no?
You should, happy to inspire. You should see my post I did today. It's George with the leaf blower and me bringing Starbucks. I
Oh,
hope
so
I
I just
inspired someone.
So I think that
Um,
I just want to paint a picture that in real estate, this is kind of like a perfect storm when you think about I'm driven, I want to achieve things, and I don't want to say no. And I've got all these reasons why I shouldn't say no. And I think it just can kind of, I know from myself and my personal experience, it can get out of hand quickly, where pretty soon you're working 7 days a week for 3 months in a row, working, 70, 80 hours a week. And that's kind of tough. And when I've talked about so far, we haven't even talked about our personal life. So Siri even mentioned that with her 6 hours. So we have commitments to your family. I want to go to the gym. I want to maintain relationships with friends, because there's years that I did not have relationships with friends because it just all went to work. There's times I didn't have relationships with my family because again, it was all everything I could do in work because it was plus full time. And I can't even imagine today too, all the things I'm told every day of everything that's going to give me a better life, right? Everything that I eat or do or shouldn't do or meditate. I mean, I do meditate, but whatever it is, there's just all this other stuff again that has them. And like we haven't even got in when we're talking about time yet to distractions. So we have distractions, right? We're living in a world that's like constantly, even today, from the time I get up to the time I go to bed, alerts on my phone, distraction from social media, I don't know, a tech thing that's broken and doesn't work, a password. I mean, someone else who the phone rings, a text message. You start multiplying the people in your life. And if everyone just sends you 1 or 2 texts a week, it gets to be a ridiculous number every day of what you look at that are all kind of like robbing us of our like time and attention. Okay, so at this point, I just want to say, like, who's already feeling like kind of overwhelmed and tired, like just from listening, right? Just like paints a picture of like I started feeling stressed, right? Even when I started working on this talk and writing it down and thinking about it, like it's exhausting. It's super exhausting. So, I don't know how many of you ever experienced that effect of all of this, like as far as just right, okay, every single person probably. So I think the 3 things that I want to talk about today, because that's the big question, is like, can you have it all? So this is, I'm just going to boil it down to this stuff thing, these 3 things that are really foundational to it. Is like, number 1 is valuing your time. Number 2 is like really getting clear in understanding like the time that you have available to give. And number 3 is the organization to stick with it. So let's go deep into number 1, and it starts with like valuing your time. Do I have one? Oh, I don't have one for this. Just we'll stop the share for a minute. So I'll have a conversation about this. Okay. So this is where it starts. It starts with all the people that are in your life. And at this time, it's like, who are those people? And typically it's yourself is someone that you should absolutely put at the top. Your family or friends, someone typically in that realm should probably come maybe number 2. Pets, friends, that's your family. If you're running a team, your team is in there, your clients, all of that kind of comes through with that. And I think that for me, it sounds really simple, but like I really hadn't thought about like valuing my time, because my time was more like, it goes back to the beginning, what I wanted to build, and focused on that and not really paying attention to what was around me. And like my first wake up call was in 2007 with the birth of like my second daughter. And she was born with complications and she was in the NICU. And we got this scary prognosis that like she might not even survive. And I will tell you that my first daughter, and I know Siri has a similar story, I was working, negotiating a deal after giving birth to my first daughter, right? I think you have a similar one, right? Yeah.
Epidural in place on the phone.
Yeah. So the second
Yeah.
one, when I realized like that was my first understanding of like how fragile life was, and that like, wow, I tell you what, I didn't work that time. And when I was in the hospital, that was the first time I valued that moment, because it sounds terrible, but it was like, I don't even know if she's going to survive. And in that moment, like I really didn't care about anything else. And I said no to real estate, right? I said no to real estate. I didn't care who texted me. I didn't care who called me. I just really was focused on where I was at. I prayed, right? I promised an end to the way I was living, because again, I had done this before, and I just realized, oh my gosh, like I can't live this way. I will be more present, please. Just like my daughter, if I could just bring my little girl home, I won't do this. Like I just like think she's the greatest thing ever. And so I held her for the first time. It took 4 days after she was born was the first time I held her. And 10 days later, we left the hospital. And I took a full 8 weeks off, which I was not planning on doing, and spent it with her. And I made changes, right? So the first time in 2008, that was my wake up call of like, this was like not probably in the right place. And so I hired an assistant in 2008. It was the first time I had someone who was on a payroll. And that allowed my husband, who was working part-time, or was working full-time at the time, to go part-time and to stay home with the girls. So it doesn't mean like, again, it was just a wake-up call to like understand like the time and how precious it was and what I wanted to do with that time. And that like, if I gave it all away, I was going to miss out on a lot of my life. So it was really cool. I had an assistant. Jason worked part-time. He was home with the girls. Life was good. And we started building this like dream home, like our dream home. And gosh, I started looking at those mortgage payments coming up, and I started thinking about furnishing it and the payments. And it wasn't long before I just slipped back into my old ways, and I was back working, doing deals like in production. And the next lesson, again, this is someone when I talk about Big Qualify, was my health. And so I don't see that as much anymore. I mean, I don't know about you, Siri, you can say that, but like I just started working all the time, and I bought into that like hustle grind lifestyle, right? Where it's like, okay, great. I'm just gonna grind this out. Tom Ferry, great, love Tom Ferry, but I was totally accepted into that like grind culture. I was exhausted. I had a lot of headaches. Had to take medication to basically manage my days, drink wine at night, and even actually had a broken foot. That it was the year of like the tax credit, and so I still wanted to go out and sell homes, and wanted to get all that done because we had 30 days to get those contracts written so people could get their $7,500 tax credit. Do you remember that, Siri, that year? I don't remember what year it was. It was a federal
I
credit.
don't remember. Yeah.
Well, I went in finally, because after 30 days, like I would come in and like throw my foot up on the desk and ice it. And I was like, my gosh, my foot hurts so bad. I can't run. And I finally went to the doctor after April 30th or 31st, whatever the last day of April was. And I had a broken foot. And so like that was like my low point. Like as far as like I knew that like something had to change again, and I knew better, and it just brought back all of those promises that I had broke and everything that had happened. So I hired a real estate coach. And my real estate coach was to manage my time and to think about like yeah, my family and myself and everything else. And I think that I was just looking for another way. And the first thing she had me do is I had to commit, just so you know where I started. Like I had to commit to taking a Sunday afternoon off to take my little girls to the zoo. And I just thought like, I don't even know if I can do this. And she made me write it on a calendar, because she's like, you have to put it up in public that you cannot cancel on your girls because they're too little. You can't say like, oh, I have to take an appointment, or we're not going to go. And I had like almost like a panic attack that day, like being off for the afternoon. But it was crazy, because I realized like, hey, everything's okay. I was able to go to the zoo, and the whole world didn't fall apart, and everything was okay. So I think it was just like realizing that taking control of my life and my schedule was really important. And that was my journey to kind of that was my big journey. That was a big change of like, I will not do this again, for like the whatever hard lesson learned. I don't know, guess 8, 10 times I had to learn it, of like kind of starting that journey of like having a life worth living, and just kind of understanding that. So it started with taking one day off a month. And that's where I just want to say, like, even if you are somebody, like when you manage it, whatever you need is start with something small and implement it. And that's all it was. That's how this whole thing started for me, was just committing to taking one day off a month. And I just had to do that. And then it was just like start with the next and the next and the next. But I want to talk about like same thing with the team. When we talk about like running a team, it's like it really starts with us. So when we want to be, they see so much more. I'm sure Siri too. You and George are such an inspiration through your action than through what you say and like watching what you do. And so it's just kind of like thinking about like how you're going to live your life, how you value your time and the time that you do have available. And so I think that just starting with a small change, it could be even when I started, one other story is like when I was with Tom and I started doing coaching for him, I wasn't doing lead generation consistently at the time. And I was telling other people to do it. So same as running a team. And I thought, well, I can't preach this and ask everyone to do it if I'm not doing it. So I went back to doing it. Right. And then all of a sudden you're like, holy crap. I mean, it works, but it's like,
It's a lot of work.
yeah. So I mean, even when we talk about productivity, like what is that one change that you need to make? And just realizing that that one change is like a really big deal. It doesn't need to be a whole revamp of the schedule or whatnot. And everyone has their thing. But once you start with like, so it just starts with valuing your time. Like, and I just want to say this from a perspective of I always think about that. You get this one life, right? You get this one beautiful, wild, precious life. And like, what do you want to do with it? And you have to get super clear in that because, like I said, you have everything, distractions, clients, teammates, everybody fighting for your time. And especially when we are successful, because usually we're, I don't know, fun to be around, great conversationalist, bubbly, excited, charismatic, right? You knowledgeable, like, of course people want a piece of you. But it just has to start with, like I said, just kind of like that value. So if you get that and your team is clear on the time, then you can just, implement that and start those changes one at a time. But if you don't have that grounding, because look at mine. I mean, my gosh, I hope it doesn't take what it took me for other people, like just a massive like loss in personal broken bones and craziness, right? To hit my rock bottom. It's almost like I should probably go on the road for like work addiction. And you know what I mean? Like as far as like some people are alcoholics, it's like that. So I think that's it. And so I don't know. So if I just had more time, I think that like that I'm gonna say too is like, it seems like kind of taking some time off. I was gonna say my biggest lesson came in 2012, and that's when my late husband received a terminal cancer diagnosis. And in 1 minute, my life changed from, I was like on top of the world, like as far as, we had he was going to be coming coaching. I had achieved everything. Like we were at dream state. We were at like now we've got the house. We're going to go sailing. We're going to take our girls. We're going to live this like awesome life and everything was good. And in like 1 minute it changed. So I lost my husband and I had two girls that were left that were 5 and 7. And it was in those 8 months that like I will tell you that I really learned to value time in a whole new way and like prioritize my time and what I had with it. So like I said, how many times did I have to learn that? But in an instant, I learned like how precious it was and crystal clear on like those hours and like what I had and who I wanted to spend them with. During that time, we would go to movies on like school nights and we would do crazy stuff. And it was like the best like 8 months of my life. Like honestly, it was a crazy, you had your friends around you, your family around you, and you're like living this life. And it's like so full and so precious. And of course, no one can stay in that state, but I can tell you that it really gives perspective on what makes sense. So I hope this just makes sense. And I just, again, last thing I want to say is like, and that number one thing is if you don't have that like firm foundation, it doesn't have to be so elaborate or extraordinary as mine. It just is, what is it to you that you are going to continually every day, week in and week out, month in, month out, struggle with that ability to say no and ability to really to show up for your team, to help your team with their time, or to even just think about what you're going to do and for whom and for what, right? Are you going to do that? So the next one is the time you have available. And so I know Siri, or I'm not, Brenna put the slide up, and I hear this all the time, especially when I coach and being, like I said, someone who loves productivity and efficiency, is like back one is like, I would always say, if I just had more time, right? If I just had more time. And I mean, Siri said that in the very beginning, we all know that we all get the same amount of time. Maybe some of us needs to sleep less or whatnot. But we just get 7 days a week. I don't know, 6 hours. I can't do 6 hours. Minimum is 7 for me. Maybe someone else it's 8 or 9. But the next slide, I just want you to know that was really was something that it doesn't take a lot. Like, so I said, number one, you have to get clear on like the value of your time. But the second thing is, if I only had more time, is if you just have to have these like really simple reminders. And one of the most simple reminders that really helped me is that 48 hours. So 48 hours, Stanford research did a lot of this on like work efficiency and productivity. And is that is the maximum numbers of hours that a human can work with being efficient and productive. After that, it just declines, and it declines sharply. Have you guys ever seen this? I can't remember if it was 60 or like 100. You're almost like working like if you were intoxicated, like that's how your brain is functioning when you get to that point. So when I talk about how I know how my time is valuable, how many am I going to give? Well, why not just do like 48? I mean, or less, right? I mean, I know you can do more some weeks or whatnot, but I mean, also understanding that after 48, I'm just going to become a lot less efficient and it's going to take me twice as long. So those extra 10 hours of work really are like probably potentially not really a huge gain. And I want you to say, I just challenge any of you to try this because it's really interesting is like, I did this, pay attention. So pay attention and start watching the next, especially through spring market, see how you are after 48 hours. I guarantee you, it will be the switch of like where you start, like, you can't do it. You can't focus. It's taking forever. You're crabby. You have no patience. You don't want to do anything. You want to quit everything. You don't want to show up for your meetings. And so again, if I really know, like I said, you start to build a stories, like if I really value my time and I really know I've got about 50 hours of maximum productivity, 48, then I can start to decide like, how am I going to spend that 48? And outside of it, it better be stuff like networking or just showing up and saying hi that I don't have to think a lot about. Okay. So I said that too, that really just a fact and planning that. So I think there's one more slide. Is there one? Or maybe there's not. About the hours you put in. It's not, is there one more in between there? Maybe I didn't put one. About the Jim Rohn? No? Okay. So I'm going to look at this. I'm looking at it. It says, Jim Rohn had a quote, and it's so true. It's not the hours you put in, but it's what you put in the hours. So that is going to lead us to number 3, is the organization and discipline part. So organization, I'm going to give you just a couple keys. This is where it gets funky, but like if you really get clear on like, I value my time at 48 hours, what am I going to do with my 48 hours? Let's start with a couple organizational things. And then that's where you can start to get like me, like really weirded out and all these like details of like how you can just really get efficient. So in order to set your schedule, right, it's important to start by planning your big goals. We talked about this. So what I have in here too is like, to this day, I know where I'm trying to get to someday. And I'll thank Tom Ferry for this too, because I remember I was at an elite retreat years and years ago, and we talked about making a 25-year plan and writing a letter to yourself. And that's probably the first time I did it, and I still do it today, where I always plan my someday goals, like where am I trying to get to? After someday, then it's like, what would I have to be? Someday to me is about 10 years, by the way, now. What would I need to be about halfway, about 5 years to get to 10? And then what would that look like in about 3 years and then 1 year? And then just kind of planning it down to quarter. And then I do break it down from the quarter. There's some things that get broken down into the months. Now, I'm not going to say like that's even tough. Like planning out a month or a week can be challenging, but you got to start like with what you know. So it could be like sometimes it starts with vacation, family time, the gym, a big goal, birthday, conferences, getting that on there. Then it kind of just starts with, there are things that foundationally you have to do every week. There might be, again, from the context of running the team, what are those key tasks or those key meetings that you do that move the team or have the biggest impact, have the most value, and like those have to go on. Every week, like you have to have, I really believe in order to keep everybody time managed and productive, we have to plan our meetings. I can't show up. If I showed up today, I could have showed up today and just talked, But if I took some time ahead of time to gather how of all the, let's say the 20 things I know that make me productive and efficient, how do I take that 20 and what if I could break it down to three? What would the three most important things? Where would I start? That was a process I had to go through. So I got to have prep time in. Doesn't matter if I'm doing production. That I have to every week have time to look through like listings I have on the market, my team teaching those habits of like making sure that we've got all those hours, those key tasks built in. And it's pretty crazy because when you get done, you're like, what? I don't have any time. You're like, there's nothing there. Okay, great. Then you probably need to hire someone, or that's a whole nother thing. But I think I would start with that. So I don't want to get super deep into this today, but what you can do is in April, we did a team cookbook and it was called Mastering the Recipe for Agent Productivity. And in that one, I went through this process in greater detail. So that is one in organizing is you gotta, one of the things that is most exciting for me at year 15 of having a team or 20 plus years in the industry is that when I did that with Tom, it's really fun is I can go back and I saved all of it and I've achieved everything that I've wanted. And if I didn't, it just was no longer important to me. But it definitely was a journey of like making sure that what I'm doing every day is getting me to ultimately where I want. Because again, everything can kind of hijack us or take our time and distract us. So it's not super detailed. It doesn't have to be detailed. It just can be big picture, big thinking. The second thing is like, I try to like really win the week by Tuesday, by the end of Tuesday. That was when I was in production, still to this day on the team. And so that the rest of the week can be a little more reactive. You have to leave room every day for surprises, right? There's organization and discipline. If I jam pack my schedule from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. and I have zero time in there, I'll tell you what, if a phone call comes in, an email comes in, or something comes up, and I don't even have a moment to handle it, that's just going to lead to stress. And just so again, it talks about just thinking about those hours. So you have to leave that. You have to leave moments for yourself. I learned this even through my personal journey in therapy and even coaching is like, you know, you have to have a moment. Like I would be exhausted sometimes when I would get to work and she'd be like, well, yeah, you got up at 5, you woke up with the girls, you got them breakfast, you got everybody out of the house. No wonder why when you get to the office, you sit down and you're exhausted. You already just did like, you know, 4 hours of stuff. So, you know, it was a big change for me is having like a lunch or just 15 minutes, just doesn't matter. Pick up a magazine, just something to keep you in the state of just being, like I said, in a good place and knowing being proactive versus reactive. So I think that organizing your schedule can take a lot of time and that discipline then to stick with, and that's what we're going to talk about. But it works, all of these things, these time hacks that people do. So when you talk about discipline, once you got your life and your calendar scheduled, it can also be true. What was it right here? Okay. All right. Yeah. So I was gonna say, I got my schedule, I got my life, I got it. It's all perfect. So great. I know what my time is. But I told you myself how many times that I got sidetracked or that I ended up getting back into my old ways, right? Because all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got to take this listing appointment. I'm gonna throw it in here, or I got to meet with this team member. I'm gonna throw it in. So even after the most significant lesson, and I told you all about time and what I have gone through, or even like I said, in losing my husband, to this day, I still, and that was why I wanted to talk about what I wanted to say today, is when you hit these new areas of growth, when you get into these periods of like, I really want to achieve something, it is so easy to slip right back into those old habits. And just the biggest change is just knowing it's normal and it's okay. It's okay to get where you're out of like whack and like that, you know, nothing is functioning right, just to be able to recognize it and then stop and then like go about 2-3 weeks out and just kind of start making decisions again and just kind of recommitting and organizing your time in a different way. And so I wanted to start with this today because you can learn all of these like skills, like, you know, there's color coding, there's time blocking, there's leverage, there's, you know, the order in which I do it, prioritizing. I mean, I could talk for quite a while about time hacks and things I've done, but I think that if, like I said in the beginning, if you don't have this foundation, and you don't have the correct values, none of that really works. And that's where I see it as like a coach is like, they would do it for a week, but it just wasn't that commitment. And so I think, again, if you don't have a commitment in place, it's really tough to do the rest of this. So I just encourage you to spend your time reflecting, even in refocusing your priorities, because that's something I kind of need to do it, honestly, to be honest. Like right now, it's just kind of like, even I'm aware of that, and just kind of doing that for myself. And most people that I meet live very impulsively, and they kind of let life take them through kind of every day. They let everything, and that's what this world is built to do, is hijack your time and your life. And it's so easy to slip back into that. And again, I just want to say too, you don't need to revamp your life. This isn't like, oh, tomorrow I have to. That's another mistake, right? It's like, tomorrow I'm going to redo everything and I'm going to make all these changes. It's like, no, just start with one thing, just start with something and go from there. So I think that it says, I was writing, like, you may have had more clarity in your so, but my point is like, it just is getting clear again. And I think we need to get clear. Some of us need to get clear frequently, and some of us, maybe you can go a little bit longer and you still have that clarity in what you're here to do. And when we are clear and we lead from that place, and we understand that foundation, and you help other people get clear, and you help other people with their time and why it's valuable and what they have and how they manage it, but you start from that, it's pretty amazing, like what you can get like a group of people to do as well. So that's kind of what I want to say. I can answer questions, or get Siri. I know I kind of gave it like a little talk speech if you want to add anything, because Siri and I've talked a lot about this. We went on walks, and I think you have a similar story per se, right? I mean, just like with time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, again, like I said, everybody has the same hours in a week, and I think you kind of nailed it in there's different ways that you have to make sure that you're putting your calendar together, that you're getting leverage. I'd say leverage for me has been the greatest gift. Also, having 5 kids, I feel like at a very young age, I was growing a little business from the beginning that I didn't really know. Like, when I'm sure, those of you on here watching have kids. Kids, you have to create order to make sure that you're getting them where they need to go and still being an adult with a job. And so those little guys were preparing me for just kind of that business aspect, and then the leverage that I had. So I don't know. I think I'd love to just maybe um, help you guys understand what you need, because I mean, you're here for a reason, to learn something, or maybe there's a pain point, or
Mhm.
I know we also focus on building a team, right? Our vision is to help you guys with building a team, because individually, what I find is I know that I can be very strong in I wake up at a certain time, I have a morning routine, I have leverage, I have my
Mhm.
calendar, I go to sleep at a certain time, I have my personal items time blocked on my week. But how do you get that over to a team? And so I'd just be curious to see, just what are some of the questions that you guys have that maybe we could help to go over. So I'd kind of love to open it up from there. And thank you, Brenna, for posting in the chat. If you guys didn't see Mastering Agent Productivity, I think that was a great topic that we went over last year, and you guys can go back and look for that recording. But what is it that you are looking for? Chris, did you unmute there? I think you did.
Yeah, I had a question for like that balance and finding that balance, especially as I am looking to grow or regrow a
Mhm.
team. I've had one before in the past and looking to relaunch there. Um, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but maybe I'd love a little more in
Yeah.
depth on that. Like, okay, I know lead generation is going to work, right? For agents that are going to be on my team, right? And I can instinctively go back into that. And I know my time is better served for the team collectively if I am more out of that, like helping them
Yeah.
learn those skills rather than. So where do you find the balance in that?
I think it's like, I think one of the things that shifts is like, there's things that you do for yourself, right? That you said that they worked for you. And that I understand like that there are, other things that you could do with your time that may bring more opportunity, or feel like it's served elsewhere. But until like those foundational things, until like the team has a habit of doing it, and they understand the skill and they understand the importance, I really believe that either I have to be there with them or it's got to be somebody else there with them doing it if it's not going to be me. And that's just a growth. So I spent a lot of years where it was me. It was me doing lead gen with them. It was me showing up at the office, even though I could have spent my time elsewhere, until someday the team is big enough where someone else is doing it. But I think that that's the challenge, is that like there has to be that balance between, I'm sure Siri can speak to this too, my productivity, especially her being in production, and also driving the team's productivity. And lead gen is one of those fundamental things, right? Is like, if that's not happening, the rest of it is like probably going to be challenging. Does that answer your question? Probably not the answer you want, but
Yeah, no, yeah,
You're going to be a juggler.
reconfirm the answer I knew and didn't want to hear, I guess, is what I'm
yeah,
saying.
that's sometimes that is what it is, right? I get that too. Sometimes I just have to like, yeah, I know, didn't want to know that, but I know. And it's really, actually, it's just, so to speak to that, Chris, I don't know, sometimes for me, it's like trying to find the mental piece of like, how do I gamify it again for myself? How do I make it enjoyable? What phone calls are I going to make during that time? It doesn't matter. Like, especially we used to break into offices where maybe I'm making recruiting calls, right? Still is no different. It's lead gen. You're calling out, you're calling to people, you're trying to set appointments or coffees or whatever your thing is. That, and then we come back together and talk about our results. So I could be doing something that does serve me, doing the same activity. It's just different. Then I
So
feel
just
better,
finding
right?
what works for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
you're, I got
Deborah.
you.
I have so you ran a team and then now you're starting a team again. Do you have anybody with you now? No.
Not currently. No.
Okay. Okay. So you're just kind of future projecting, like, okay, so I know getting
Yeah,
back
because
into
so
this.
the
Yeah.
way, and this is my brain works on analogies. So I'm thinking more, and I guess I'll go to the Chargers for this since you're in San Diego, and I don't know if you're a football fan or not, but like, so at some point, a coach like Jim Harbaugh, right? Like he was a player. I am in sales. He realized that he was better served for the greater good of the world and his organization, not being that professional athlete anymore. And I'm sure, like he's a younger coach, but he is not out there running laps with the team every day. And even though he knows that that's the best way for them to get in shape, is to do that. So I'm struggling with that as I look to future pace, like you said, my organization, and because I feel that one of my failures the first time I did this was that I was all that. Like, and I also had that mentality that no one could outwork me from that, or you were going to have to outwork me to get that. So that's where I'm trying to not do that again, I guess, is why I'm on these calls.
Yeah. I think, for me, what I found, because I started heavy in production, running the team, how do you have enough time to still manage the team itself? And what you have to do is kind of like what Beth had said, you have to say no, but no, not in the aspect of no, I can't help you. Yes, I can help you in these time slots. Like this is when I can help you. So everything has to really be an organized plan of when you're available. Of course, if like I told my son the other day, he's 14, I have a leadership call every 7:40 at 7:45 every morning. Well, lo and behold, Dane likes to come up to me every time I'm on the phone talking, whatever it is. And I told him, I was like, unless your arm is falling off and you're bleeding, do not come over to me. I need 15 minutes. And so it's this, and this is why I say, my kids really help to kind of prepare me for the team because it's really, we're just like adults, but we're still kids at heart, right? And we all function the same still in our older bodies. And so you have to really give them like time slots of your time and still give yourself time slots of, this is when I'm doing X. And they need to appreciate and understand when that time is. So again, unless there's a red alert on the team for that team member, they don't have you during that time. They shouldn't expect that. And that's kind of like what you were saying, Beth, with the people pleasing. I think we try to people please too much. But what I found is having that message from the very beginning, and I learned this kind of through just the people pleasing of running a team over time, that now we have certain times that they know I'm available. They have certain ways that they know I'm available. They know that my pet peeve is, hey, do you have a minute? They won't get a response. because I don't know what they're talking about. First of all, it could hijack my whole day. They know that I have pod leaders in place now. Go to your pod leader. But these are all things that as we grew, we set these things up. But I would just really, to answer that question, just say, make sure you have segmented times and order and organization from the very beginning, and you'll be able to make it. You'll be able to make it round 2 if you have that in place.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's very helpful. Thank you.
And
Yeah,
I think it
you're
is
welcome.
like I said, those 48 hours. And so like, let's say you like, I have to do lead gen with the team. So I'm going to do it 3 times a week. I need 3 hours. Where's it? It's going to take away from things I am doing. So, right. Is it an admin task? Like I'm backfilling with admin, or is it sales? And then I'm going to help build my sales team. And that's one of the benefits is like, they're going to do it. They can do CMAs for me, or I mean, whatever it is, right? They can run showings just so that you can keep those same hours. But I do think that like, I believe too, in that first 90 days, like if you can really spend that time with them and get them launched to be self-managed and set those clear expectations. But then the difference is, Chris, too, is like they need to launch, right? Just like a kid. If they keep come back like they want you to do it, it's like that's a job. Like that's a different model.
Yeah.
You
We
know?
have a 30-day onboarding where it's like you need to show us. There's no strings attached. I mean, we'll get you on some of our systems, but there's a 30-day that we're really looking at each other. So like what you were saying, there's a 90 days to close your first transaction, especially for
Mhm.
newer agents, but there's a 30-day like we're checking each other out, because I have this gift that is not such a gift, but I have this gift of thinking everybody is amazing, and they're not. I mean, not
You
that they're
gotta
not good people. They're just not made for this job just because they're, bubbly, happy, whatever. It takes a special person to do real estate. So that's part of that organization part of like how much time do you give, when do you give it, and how quickly do you move out of, okay, this just isn't going to work, or this is great, you're doing wonderful, you know. So mapping all those things out in advance has helped tremendously, because it used to just be a free for all, come one, come all, which was when our team was up to 100 agents. It was come one, come all, and it was just too much for everybody. So,
Love that. Thank you.
no problem. Would love to hear from anybody else. We have a few more minutes, and then I just want to share what we have going on for next month, because I'll be taking the lead on that one, and it's actually around lead generation. So, one more question. Anything else you guys would have that we could help with, where you're at with time management, or questions for us that you may have? This is that awkward silence I always put my agents on. We do this Slack huddle every week. I'm like, now we're going to go into awkward silence till somebody talks. And then someone does. Adam, I see you. You're thinking something. Come on. Come on.
Trying to figure out how to formulate it. Um, so like, do you break up like because I mean, in this industry, you could do a million different things, right? Between like so many different types of lead generation, content generation, marketing, like outreach, all this different stuff you could do. Do you do like a little bit like each day and kind of spread out the same things over each day? Or or in your experience in your careers, have you learned like, hey, earlier in the weeks, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when the market's maybe a little bit slower because we got through and like lack of listings, things like that, I'm going to focus more on these tasks that are important to me in my business. And then later in the week, I'm going to shift my focus to like these type of tasks. You know what I'm asking?
I'll answer like I'll let you go serious. I would think that so there's 2 things. One is that when I was in production, I was called so even the year was segmented that way, where like Q2 or spring market was all about selling. So most of my weeks were just sales focused and production focused and very little team focused. There's content you have to keep up, but I tried to like have it just be not projects, not business, not ops, not changing, not growing, but literally just selling and selling with everybody else and driving sales. And then typically back in the day, it used to be more like Q4, and at the beginning of Q1 was kind of like more like project, process, building, team infrastructure, whatever. To me, I still think, like I said, that win by Tuesday. So today, Monday is all about getting the team set in order, and everyone that I'm working with, or even if it's business, it's from the weekend catch up. Tuesday is always still that, like getting the rest of the week set, getting any meetings, team meetings, all of those kind of things, listing follow-ups, whether it's content. And then Wednesday was more an easier day still with appointments, where it could be like content driven. And then Thursday, Friday were Friday, Saturday are appointments. But that was kind of like how I broke it up. But it's also knowing like deep work, things that like content, that's probably the biggest one. Takes a lot of anything that's creative. I need to do it probably in the morning or late at night, and I need big blocks of time that are uninterrupted. So where's the highest likelihood that I'm going to have those? And then the same thing with like kind of keeping everything else like reactive that I can just go do in the afternoon. So moving all of those important things is just like going to the gym, which I don't do in the morning, which is a problem for me. But if I do all that stuff in the morning, lead gen, anything that's finance related, anything that needs time, and I want to do it consistently so that the rest of the day can kind of be a little bit more reactive, and the rest of the week can be reactive. But I really guard my Monday and Tuesday. How about you, Sarah?
Well, I think it's going to depend on where you are, right? So if you're in production, you're going to have different days for different focus, because normally you're going to be Thursday, Friday, whether it's listings or buy side, getting ready for the weekend. So that's a production mindset. If you're just a pure team lead where you're running the team, that I think can be a different mindset of flowing through the week. So where are you at in where are you at in things? Are
I'm in
you
the
running it?
production side.
Your production. Okay. So, I mean, for us, Thursday, Fridays, Wednesdays today too is kind of heavy in just time blocks of making sure that we have our marketing ready. I'm not really on the buy side, but our buyers agents I know get very heavily ready. I know that we've changed so that we don't have any meetings on Thursdays now as a team, so that our team can be working in what they need to for their business. We have no meetings Thursday. We have one small meeting in the morning on Friday as far as the team goes, and we do it on a Slack huddle. So if they need to be out dropping kids off, whatever it is, we try to make it so it's not like they have to be sitting in front of their computers. So we really try to preserve those last 2 days for our team and our agents to be able to not be so heavily focused on us. It's usually the first part of the week where we do more of that. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, more Tuesday, Wednesday, if that helps a little bit on team side.
No, that definitely does. So, thank you.
Okay, cool.
It's kind of like you said, though, it doesn't change. Just like your end of the week is recruiting appointments instead of
Yeah.
listing. I think that's what's funny. I think that they run so similar, like production versus team. Because I always, even in
Yeah.
production, right? Like Tuesday is like touching base with all your listings, talking about like if you need to do any price changes, what happened with showings over the weekend, right? Monday's like paperwork catch up day, follow up from like the weekend.
Yeah.
I think it's
Wednesday's our team meeting day, which is starting right now. um, so real quick, so I can get over there talking about time management and being on time. I got to get over to that, but I just wanted to let you guys know if you have any questions here, you can find us. You can find us on Instagram. Watch previous sessions. We have a whole platform. We've been doing this now for over a year, so there's a bunch of material. Next month, I'm going to be talking about lead generation, systems based. So basically, we run a Zillow Flex team like Beth does. We have Realtor.com. We're the #1 Rocket Homes team in San Diego. We do Veterans United. We do, a lot of different online leads. We help our agents with their sphere. I want to go over that with you guys and just show you how you can build your platforms, because without these lead opportunities, building a team is very difficult if you don't have that, because they will come for leads and all the other things follow too. But I'm going to be leading that one next month. So would love to have you guys join and see what we do from that standpoint. So I think that's a wrap. It's great to meet you guys. Thanks, Beth, for running that. That was great. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll see you next month. I gotta run. I gotta be on time to pick up my daughter at school.
Bye.
Okay,
Yep.
go do it.
It's your team
See you
meeting.
later.
1 minute late. Bye.
Okay, bye.